I'm not a sports guy. However, one thing that I do enjoy watching every now and then is something that I also do in real life, and that is mixed martial arts. Like, I remember watching, man, I remember the VHS tapes of the very first UFC, looking at it going, that sumo guy, that big, huge sumo guy is going to crush that other guy who's like a third of his size. And seeing that the big, huge dude that you think's going to win completely get demolished. And then the wushu master who's been practicing wushu or whatever for 30 years, go, obviously he's going to be able to do some energy punch against this Hoist Gracie jiu-jitsu guy who looks retarded in his karate looking gi, right? And then that wushu guy gets completely demolished. It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating to see that. And then obviously UFC 2 and 3 and so on, and now we're in the hundreds. The What fascinates me about it is that it's very analogous. It's very similar to life. Very, very few people will get into a martial art where you actually have to spar with somebody, where you are getting punched in the face, you're getting kicked in the ribs and kicked in the liver and kicked in the shins, and you get bruises all over and it hurts the next day. Very few people will get into a martial art that does that. A lot of people will get into a martial art that is very showy, does give you discipline, does help you to understand your body, and I'm not knocking any other martial art or anything like that, but they will not get into a martial art that requires pain and ultimately requires one of the most painful things, and that is the pain of loss and embarrassment. The thing with martial arts in general, that where you are sparring, where you are fighting against each other, the thing with that is it's very different than sports. A lot of people will play sports. A lot of people will play basketball, football, and so on. And there's a reason why I'm talking about this, by the way. But if the team loses, you're only a member of the team, right? You're one of many in that team. So if the team loses, then, darn. But if you're in a fight, if you're in a jiu-jitsu match, if you're in a full-on mixed martial arts match, in Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, if you're in those types of matches, if you lose, it's you. It's all on you. 100% on you. There's nobody, you're not going to blame your coaches, nobody is going to be blamed except for you. You're going to be the one that's on the floor hurting in front of an audience. And that's why we have such a hard time with failure when it comes to business, when it comes to social skills, when it comes to selling, when it comes to marketing, and when I say selling and marketing, when it comes to seduction, when it comes to you're always marketing, you're always selling, you're always seducing. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. When you are trying to get your friends to go to the movies with you, you are seducing them. When you're trying to get your kid to clean their room, you are seducing them. You're sales and persuasion. It's all sales and persuasion. right? When you're trying to get grandma to put you on her will, you're, you're seducing grandma. Uh, but in that act, somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to quote unquote lose. Somebody's going to acquiesce, and somebody who is going to dominate. And when we get in front of somebody who maybe somebody at a store that you're buying, and you want to be in a conversation with them, or you want to get their phone number, or you want to, or maybe you're soliciting and you're trying to get them to buy something, that maybe that's the owner of the business. At that moment, the risk of embarrassment, the risk of loss goes up very, very, very high, because it's you and them. And generally, it's not going to just be you and them. It's going to be you, them, and the people around you looking. And that means that if you fail, you are going to not only embarrass yourself with that person, you're going to embarrass yourself with these other people as well, right? And so it's very difficult. That's why it's one of the scariest things for a lot of people to be somebody who is good socially, to be somebody who can talk to anybody, who can sell to anybody. And why it's why a lot of people will just chalk up and they see these people who are very, very good at socializing. They'll usually say to themselves, well, that's because they're born that way. That's because they're a natural. And there are people who are naturals, for sure. But most of the time, these quote unquote naturals are not nearly as good as the person who worked at becoming social. Not as good as the person who worked at becoming a salesperson. Not as good as somebody who who worked at becoming a marketer, an advertiser. And that's because a lot of what the naturals do, they take for granted. One of my mentors, a guy named Arash Dibazar, he had a really, really good analogy of this. You have fighters, you have people who fight on the street who have won a lot of their, they fight in bars, they tend to be a natural when it comes to fighting, right? They're successful. They have their little tactics and everything like that. You put that natural up against somebody who has been who's a pro fighter, and that natural loses almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time. And it's not because he's not naturally good. What he did got him to where he's at. What he did got him to where he is able to dominate a lot of people in the outside world who are not trained, who are not constantly practicing, who are not getting hit all the time, who are not feeling the energy and movement of other people. He's able to win against a variety of people because what he's built up naturally, or what he's done naturally, works generally on untrained individuals, and it works very well. As soon as he starts training, it feels wrong to him. He starts losing a lot of fights. He starts losing, obviously, to all these pros, or people who have just been somewhat training. He's losing all these fights, and it looks like he is no longer a natural. Like, it looks like he is going backward from where he was. But as he learns more and more, he starts learning the techniques behind what was making him successful, but the actual true techniques, understanding in his mind, understanding in his habit, understanding in his body, why things were working and why things were not working. And he's able to train over and over and over again these techniques, so that his natural ability now is, if he was a Cessna before, if he was just like a propeller plane before, as a natural, complete natural, he's now able to turn into a fighter jet with jet fuel, because he understands how to move his body, how to do all these different techniques. He understands the frameworks, and boom. That's why you had, back in the day, you had people like Kimbo Slice who were doing so well. They were natural fighters. They were great fighters, but then they became pro fighters. But when you saw when Kimbo Slice was becoming a professional fighter, he was getting his butt handed to him in the beginning. But then as he started learning, he became a powerful, dominant force. Okay. So the same goes for sales, social skills, for all these different things. A lot of these quote unquote naturals aren't nearly as good as people who worked at what they were doing, worked at the sales skills, worked at learning how to listen. A lot of natural salespeople, a lot of natural business people, they talk, 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 talk. And they have never learned how to listen. They've never learned how to hit pain points, how to bring people down into the pit of where they are, and allowing them the person they're selling to see, oh crap, I'm in a huge pit and I didn't even realize it. And then give them the solution to come out of the pit. These frameworks, the Sandler selling system frameworks, the interview method frameworks, all these different frameworks of selling and marketing and stuff. A lot of them don't have that in them. And so they just talk, 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 and they might talk to 100 people and they convert 2 people, and that makes them happy and gives them a lot of money. But the person who's trained talks to 100 people and converts 10, right? The that's where you have to realize that there there's no way of getting around, if you want to be the best of the best of the best, there's no way of getting around that one-on-one chance of failure. That one-on-one chance of being embarrassed. I was just at Starbucks. I went to a Starbucks near here, and I walk in, and there's 4 people around the table, and there's one guy on the other side of the table, and you can tell he's kind of like the alpha of the group there. And as soon as I walk in, he is staring directly at me. Now, for me, that in the past, I would immediately look away. I'd immediately be like, oh. But I held eye contact with him for 3 to 4 seconds, which, if you realize how long that is, that's really long. I always have a smile on my face, like, not like, but I'm always like, I have like a smirk or whatever. Eventually, he stopped looking. He went from this like menacing look to saying, "Hey, good morning," and it was one of those situations where it could have been, "What the fuck are you looking at?" or something like that, right? And it could have, it 100% could have, or it could have been something that was embarrassing, it could have been whatever. But these are the opportunities for me to demonstrate higher value, to demonstrate dominance, to demonstrate confidence, to demonstrate that I have a smile on my face, so I'm not being threatening. I'm not trying to make the guy look like try and make him feel bad, you know. It's an opportunity to communicate a heck of a lot through nonverbal communication, through body language. And I try and take those opportunities as much as possible. Now, early on way back when I did not look this way, when I was not bigger, didn't have more a muscular framework, that probably could have ended up in a bad situation. Don't know. But it's these little like one-on-one situations, um, these little one-on-one situations that are what build you into the person that you are meant to be. And you're going to fail, it's going to hurt, things are going to be awkward, things are going to be embarrassing. But the more that you do them, the more that you're going to be able to finagle your way. I mean, look at the best of the best fighters like Hamzat Chimaev. He's able to go against almost anybody. He might get hit every now and then, but he is able to maneuver, right? The same thing happens socially, same thing happens with business. You get so good at these situations that you're able to maneuver. You're able to get what you want. And literally, I use the word dominate, but to get what you want out of the situation. But that only comes from embarrassing moments. Maybe one of these days I'll share all my embarrassing moments because there are a lot. But trust me, I've had my fair share, a lot of embarrassing moments, and they are just let me tell you, most people would crumble and never leave their house ever again if if they went and had the same thing happen. But you got to go through it. You got to get punched in the face. And that's the more you do that, the more you're going to be successful, the more that you're going to grow, the more that you're going to have so many amazing things happen to you. And the more you're going to find that life is pretty freaking awesome. But you got to put in the work and get hit in the face a couple times to realize that. So, all right, go get punched in the face, figuratively and literally.